Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, Super Mario Word Salad. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. Mark, how's it going today?
It's going really good.
Yeah, good.
I've been eating a lot of oatmeal recently.
Okay. How do you take your oatmeal?
With a little bit of brown sugar, raisins,
Oh,
and a little bit of milk.
just like a little bit of milk.
Yeah, I don't drown it in there, but you gotta loosen it up.
Yeah, I mean, because otherwise you're just eating like dry oats.
Well, no. Sorry, I cook it with water. It's once I've and then I add the milk to the bowl, so it's kind of like a I don't know how
What
to
do
describe
you say?
I don't know. I don't know.
To the bowl,
Yeah.
as opposed to like in a separate container that you pour into your mouth at the same time.
Well, right. No. The way I took what you were saying is that you thought that I boiled my oats in milk, which is not something I do.
Right. You cannot, of course, this is in the Old Testament that you cannot boil the oats in the milk of its mother.
Well known.
Especially if you're trying to keep kosher. I have never been an oatmeal guy. So the whole process is a little bit strange to me. Most of the time that I encounter oatmeal, it's in those instant oatmeal packets that you would get at a hotel continental breakfast. When I'm like, those eggs look sketchy, I'm gonna try something, see how the other half lives.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Live a little. You're at a Spring Hill Inn.
That's right. Or like a Comfort Inn.
Here's something that's annoying.
Yeah.
No. Let's not get into
What?
it. It's not important. It's
Come
not
on.
important.
You can't set up a conversation topic like,
Fine.
here's what's annoying, and then not tell me what's annoying.
Fine. You go to a Courtyard Marriott. They're like, have breakfast. It's free. We love you. You go to a Marriott. You're paying more, and they're like, give us money for breakfast.
Yeah.
We're not giving to you for free.
Yeah, you're
that doesn't
right.
make any sense
You're
to me.
right. This is stupid. Here's the thing. When you are on vacation, you are staying in a hotel. First of all, congratulations. You're in 2016 or earlier. Get an Airbnb. But I feel like breakfast should just be part of the hotel experience.
Yeah, I think so too.
You're sleeping there. You should have your first meal there. And you shouldn't have to worry about it. You should just go down and it'll be there.
It's being at your being at a hotel should be like being at your parents' house.
That's right.
You don't have to worry about food.
They've got cable.
Adult movies.
That's just like being at your parents. Mark, we've got some fun things to talk about today. Because we have spent the weekend playing new Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe and Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story and Bowser Jr.'s Journey, and we're going to talk about them today. But before we do that, we've got two things we need to address. One is that you and I are still on this episode of You've Got Hanks, where we talk about why did I stumble? You've Got Hanks, Rachel Chapman's new podcast, where she brings guests on to talk about Tom Hanks movies. We're on the second episode ever.
Which means we're in the second movie we're talking about the second movie Tom Hanks was ever in.
Yes.
Which is a little made-for-TV number called Mazes and Monsters.
Came out the same year as Splash. Believe it or not.
Yeah, guess which one of those was Tom Hanks' breakout movie career?
Yeah, it wasn't Mazes and Monsters, but Mazes and Monsters holds a dubious place in film history for being the movie that scared parents away from letting their kids play Dungeons and Dragons, because Tom Hanks plays D&D essentially and goes crazy. Stabs a dude in New York, and then runs to the Twin Towers, and nothing really happens there, right?
Yeah,
he goes up to the observation deck.
But here's the thing you may have not known is Patrick and I have played Dungeons and Dragons, and we've played it together.
That's right.
Rachel did not know this when she invited us to go on her podcast.
A pretty safe bet, though, right?
Oh, yeah.
So we ended up on Rachel's podcast on You've Got Hanks. We did a what class or what alignment? There was something.
It was class. What class would you be?
Yeah.
And
you took the quiz, and I said, I bet I know what it's going to be.
And you were right.
I was right. I know Mark pretty well, and I know how he plays D&D. So if you find any of that interesting, you should check out You've Got Hanks with Rachel Chapman. Mark and I are in episode 2.
Here's another thing you might find interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick's copy of Sonic Forces.
Oh, you walk into a crowded bar and there are a bunch of the same old people there. But what's this you see sitting at the corner stool with just a martini? Everyone else is drinking beer. But this individual is a copy of Sonic Forces for the Nintendo Switch, and you can borrow it. All you gotta do is walk up to that fine cartridge and say, "Here's my address," and then it gets sent to you. You have to say it, but you have to say it into an email addressed to Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. And then you can borrow my copy of Sonic Forces. It's just that easy. Also, really, you go on a list, and then eventually the game goes out to you. I've been mentioning this for a while, but I currently don't know where my copy of Sonic Forces is. I assume it will come home to me someday.
It did last time.
And it was missing for much longer than it has been since we've seen it last. So I hold out hope, Mark.
It's all we have.
All right, let's get into our discussion of the week about these 2 Mario games with enormous names.
Okay, ground rules.
Thank you for laying these out early.
Whenever we talk about New Super Mario Brothers,
yes,
we'll be talking about New Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe. We're just going to shorten it.
And we may shorten it different ways.
Oh, yeah. We're not going to follow that rule.
Right.
Basically, all that rule is saying is we're not going to call it by its full name.
That's right.
Who has the time?
I think in my head, I'm just saying New U.
I love it.
So New U is what we're going to call this game.
Mm-hmm.
I have owned this game on Wii U previously. It came with my Wii U.
We did an entire episode about this game.
But not about the part of the conversation that I haven't said these exact words already, right? Oh my God. Have we recorded this exact episode already?
I mean, it must go really well.
Yeah.
We kept doing it, so.
So yes, my copy of this game also had the new Luigi U stuff on it as well. So I passed on this game, not because I don't like it, but because I already have it and can play it anytime I want. Mark, however, picked it up.
I did pick it up, and we'll get to that in just a second. I just wanted to lay the second ground rule.
Yes,
which is we're just going to call Mario and Luigi Bowser Inside Story plus Bowser Jr.'s Journey. Just Bowser Inside Story.
Yes, and I expect that we will be referring to both Bowser's Inside Story and Bowser Jr. as separate games because they really are separate games with that share a story. But yeah, are otherwise totally separate gaming experiences. So yes, Mark, I agree to these rules. I think these are good ground rules.
Okay, so I picked up New You.
New year. New you.
And we had played it together before for an episode of the show, and you should go back and check that out.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really spend very much time playing like the core New Super Mario Brothers game. When we talked about it before, that's basically what we played through together and talked about. And so I was checking out some other aspects of the game, like new Luigi U.
Yeah, which is something that I had mostly overlooked in my experiences with the game in the past, and I think is very frequently just referred to as like just like an add-on or like something else that's neat about a pretty good Mario game.
Yeah, it wasn't what I expected it to be because so many people like refer to it so casually. I thought it was going to be more like what the challenge mode is in New Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe. Oh, darn it. But once you get started, you can't
it's hard to backpedal on it.
And like the challenge mode is still there, but that's what I was expecting from New Luigi U, and it's not that at all.
Right, and the challenge mode is super punishing, right? Like it is get through the it gives you very specific restrictions on things, and it can be very rewarding to do all of these sort of like micro challenges, but that is pointedly not what Super Luigi U is.
Yeah, Super Luigi U is the same framing device, the same world map as the standard version, but each level is different. And the levels are like shorter, they're more challenging. But that's like basically the framework.
Yeah. The other big change is that all of the characters have the sort of like slippery Luigi physics. So Luigi jumps a little bit higher and skids a little bit more. And that is only true in the Super Luigi U like version of this. If you're in the regular game, Luigi controls identically to Mario.
In this version of it, you can still play as Nabbit, and you can still play as Toadette with like the Super Crown upgrade and stuff.
And just one of the Toads as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so that's where we spent most of our time. I brought it over on Sunday, and we basically we played through the entire like base story. We didn't do any of the like Star Road challenges.
Yeah, well, because for any of those Star Road challenges, you need to get all of the big coins in a world, and the worlds were just challenging enough that you and I would have had to put some like real thought into accomplishing it, and by the end of the afternoon, we were not ready for that. We did not have the extra brain power to get to these challenge levels.
But by the end, we had found like a rhythm and we're kind of rolling. So we were routinely getting all 3 of the big coins in levels.
Well, and I think part of that is also just like a mindset of like, no, this is something we're going to prioritize and actually do. When you first came over to my house, you had played like the first 2 worlds and you were like, I haven't been trying to get the coins at all. And then after a couple levels of probably you seeing me like sort of lingering around one of the big coins or being like, yo, I got this one. You're like, okay, fine. Okay, fine, Patrick, we'll play it the way you want to play it.
It's a really different experience playing it single player and playing it multiplayer.
Totally.
So when you're playing single player, you can still choose to be Luigi, a Toad, Toadette, or Nabbit. I was originally playing as Luigi, and in Super Luigi U, each level you start out with like 99 Mario seconds.
Right. So it starts off with a
which is really anxiety inducing. Yeah. Even though the levels are fairly short, so 99 seconds if you're at a good clip like is enough time.
Yeah.
And in the longer worlds like the castles or the airships, once you make it to the boss room, they give you an extra 100 seconds.
Right. Or sometimes more than that if it thinks you're going to spend more time on the boss. There was one boss that gave us an extra 250 seconds.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how that's done because I didn't encounter that when I was playing by myself. I'm sure that is true, but I don't know how much extra they would have given us.
Sure.
Because you were playing as Toadette, and when you're playing as Toadette, or I'm assuming Nabbit, you get 100 extra seconds.
Just
so
no
it's
matter
more like
what
the regular
to the base time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's
this
more
is
like the regular like length.
This is something that I don't think was really spelled out for me. For both Toadette and Nabbit, it actually says when you're selecting these characters that the game is easier with Toadette and easiest with Nabbit. So like those characters have Toadette can turn into Peachette, which has like an extra jump and can kind of like glide princess style. And Nabbit just runs through enemies. But there are other ways that the game changes to be easier when those characters are there. The one is this extra time that you get with Toadette. I assume the same is true with Nabbit as well. But also with Toadette, anytime that you hit a block that should have a 1-up mushroom in it, a 3-up moon appears. And the moons don't move around. They stay put.
Is that true? Because I feel like
I think so.
I feel like in one of the levels that like maybe World 8 level where there was just that like string of moons you could get that so they were like falling off.
They fall off because they don't just like arise out of the question block. They kind of like pop out.
Oh sure.
So they've got like a little arc to there, but like that's it. They'll do that little jump and then they'll stay put. Ditto the Super Crown, which is the thing that turns Toadette into Peachette. It flies out of the question block, but then it stays put. It doesn't like roll away like it's an acorn or a mushroom.
Just a standard mushroom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if like the same holds true in like the time thing. I don't know if the added time is true for just the standard new U game, because I haven't tried it. Like maybe it's not necessary because you don't start with like the limited amount of time. Yeah, Super Luigi U was a ton of fun.
Yeah.
It, like I was saying, it's a very different experience playing by yourself than playing together. When you're playing together, it's really easy to make, or it's easier to make forward progress, because if one of you dies, as long as the other one like continues even a little bit, you're always moving forward. Whereas when you're playing by yourself, when you're dead, and you have to start over. The Super Luigi U levels, they don't have any midway point.
Yeah.
Like they don't have a checkpoint, and so the levels are shorter.
Too short, yeah.
But you either like get through it or you don't.
Yeah. So, we played all the way through Luigi U with 2 players, which is I feel like that is the ideal way to play this game. It's just enough, especially to people who like know how to play Mario. That like it's just enough where you can like use each other as like sort of platforms to reach a little bit higher ground. You don't really have to worry about like how the other person is doing, and it's not so chaotic that like it's just a chaos party.
Yeah, I don't think it would be very much fun with like 3 or 4 people.
I think it would still be fun. I think it's just a different kind of fun, like if you want to be serious. Although I do wonder what it would be like to play this game with 4 people who are all like super serious about it and like have been playing Mario games their whole lives and are like good at it.
That could be fun.
But yeah, I don't know what more do we have to say about New Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe that we have not already covered.
Yeah, I guess I just feel like I'm glad it's on the Switch. I think last week I was mentioning how I was just kind of like itching for a 2D platformer that you can get into. The new Super Mario Brothers games, I don't know if they're anybody's favorite Mario games, but anytime
we were talking about this yesterday, that it's almost hard to tell them apart in our memories. We have both played the three of the 4 new Super Mario Brothers games. Neither of us have played New Super Mario Brothers 2. But like it is sort of hard for me to remember what is in the Wii version, what's in the 3DS version. And some of the boss encounters that we had yesterday, we were both, having played this game already, both went like, I don't remember this boss fight.
Yeah, and I don't know how much of that is like that the platforming of the worlds are unmemorable versus I had just played some of the other Mario games so many times that they're ingrained in my memory. But for some reason, I'm always like a little bit reluctant when it comes to the new Super Mario Brothers games. They're definitely not the ones that I gravitate towards naturally, but anytime I play them, I have a good time.
Yeah. Well, and you posed this question to me yesterday of like if the art style were different in these games, or like if it was the exact same game but it looked like Super Mario World, would people like herald it as a new classic? And I think it's a good question to consider. I don't know. I think it's possible that we've all just been burnt out on the sort of vanilla Nintendo like Mario house style, because we see it so much. We see it in every promotional Mario anything. We see it in Super Mario Run. We see it in all the new Mario games. We see it. I mean, like Mario Tennis Aces is basically that exact same aesthetic. And the game that we're about to talk about, Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story, same basic aesthetic there too. So yeah, it does make me wonder if just a different coat of paint on this game would change its reputation. Okay, should we now shift over to Bowser's Inside Story?
Yes.
Okay. So I had never played the original DS game, but I did play the recent 3DS release of Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, which also has a Bowser it's like Bowser and Minions. I forget what that one's like second game is. But I'm enjoying it so far. One of the things that I think is super cool about Bowser's Inside Story, the gimmick is Bowser. It is a for the most part like top-down RPG. Bowser starts by swallowing up Mario and Luigi and a bunch of other stuff in like a fit of vacuum mushroomery. And so the majority of the game takes place in two different places. One is Bowser, like kind of stomping around the kingdom trying to accomplish things, and the other is Mario and Luigi inside Bowser's body, trying to like activate parts of his body that have been deactivated somehow. So like his fire breath isn't working, so you have to go to his fire pipes, and there's like a bug in there, and you have to kill the bug, or like he's trying to pull an island towards him with like a rope, and you have to stimulate his muscles. So like you go to his arm and like hit it with hammers, which is all really cool. But the thing that I think is super neat about the Mario and Luigi portions of this game is that it, instead of being like a top-down like perspective on like an RPG overworld, it's side-scrolling, and so you're doing platforming while you're exploring these sort of RPG spaces. It's a little bit like the Super Paper Mario on Wii. It's been very fun in that regard.
And it's, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it also like the battle system is a little bit like Paper Mario as well, where it's about like pressing buttons in time to actions?
Yeah, so I mean that's sort of a staple of the Mario and Luigi series, that all of the attacks do have sort of like either timed things where you can like get a second hit, or where you push the button at the right time when like they're pulling their hammer back, that they deal a little more damage, or sometimes it'll be like it's a fireball thing, so you just like jam on the button as fast as you can. But what the Mario and Luigi series does is that one of the buttons is connected to Mario and another button is connected to Luigi. So like if you try to push the Mario button when it's Luigi's turn, you'll see Mario jump, but like you're not actually selecting the things that you want to make Luigi do. You have to use his button for it, which also means that when you're being attacked and you want to do like a special time defense, you have to make sure that you're doing it for the right character. However, the buttons are so close to each other, you can just push them both at the same time with your big man thumbs, and it's works every time that way.
So Bowser Jr.'s journey,
yes,
is like mechanically, is it very similar to the Bowser's minions?
So I believe so. I did not spend much time with Bowser's minions in the first iteration of these. But I have spent a lot more time with Bowser Jr.'s journey, and I think part of that is I'm enjoying the story of it, or just like, yeah, I'll stick with it. I'm enjoying the story of it. But the way the gameplay works is that there are three types of units, right? There are flyers, there are ranged attackers, and there are melee fighters, and they have a sort of like rock paper scissors, where the ranged are more they're strong against the flyers strong against the melee strong against the ranged, and so before you go into every battle, you can see what your opponent's army is made up of, and so you just sort of choose a formation of your available units that fit, that will be it's an advantageous like lineup is what you're trying to do. And so a lot of that is based around just like the rock, paper, scissors of it all. But then, each character has individual levels. And then there are just like specific little things that you even need to go into the character descriptions to find out. So like I've got Koopas that, when I go into the description, it says like, they know the Parabides weakness. So like, oh, okay, great. I'm going up against Parabides. I can put these guys in there and they'll do a little bit better. Or they'll warn you like, look out, the Mecha Koopa is not effective against mechanically inclined enemies. So it's just a lot of like unit management. And once you get into the battles themselves, they mostly run themselves. You watch me do one of these. That like you get to do just like, Bowser Jr. has a few little commands that he can do, and you can again help them with like the time special moves. But for the most part, the battles play themselves.
Are there lots of different enemy and troop type?
It's hard to say at this point. There's a fair amount. Every couple fights, it tells me that like, oh, now I can recruit this many. And there's, I can recruit like 70 or 80 or something characters into my party right now, which is exciting. That's a lot. And when you start the game, you start to collect the Koopa kids as people who can be in your party, which is awesome. I love the Koopa kids. And I'm at a point in the game now where most of them have abandoned me because Bowser Jr. is a little turd and no one wants to spend any time with him. One of the things that I love about this game is that it is reinforcing Bowser Jr. is bad and the Koopa kids are better than he is. But it's I'll just address the story here a little bit. Bowser Jr. is trying to do something to impress his dad, and like that's it. That's like his sole motivation. And he's a petulant little turd. And the Koopa kids are all like, it's their attitude towards him is so funny because they're like, they don't know all they know is that they have to like take his crap. And like they're all smarter than he is, and they're all more capable than he is. But like he's Bowser Jr. What are you gonna do? So it's just fun to have all of the characters that are interacting with each other being the Koopa kids. There's a Kamek in there too, and some other characters dropped in. But it's mostly these characters that you and I, we ranked them before. And I remember at the time being like, I know him from Super Mario Brothers 3, or like his hair is stupid or whatever. But it's cool to see them like actually characterized in this game.
It seems like a pretty like meaty addition to the package, but also something like you could do while watching TV.
Totally something you could do while watching TV. I'm a little bit surprised that these Bowser and Bowser Jr. like extra journeys that they don't take this formula and put it into a mobile game. Because I think it would be perfect for it. You could do most of it via touch. In fact, there are a lot of times where it won't let me do touch. Like most of the game is playable just by using the touch screen, but every now and then it's like it makes me push a button and I'm like, how dare you?
Well, I wonder what Bowser Jr.'s waifus would be in order to make it a compelling mobile game.
I guess that is the part of it. Who is Bowser Jr.'s waifu? Email us Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com and let us know. It is maybe this is why it's not actually like a separate experience or a mobile game, is that it runs through the exact same like the events of Bowser's Inside Story are obviously happening in parallel with Bowser Jr.'s
like Lion
journey.
King 1.5.
Yeah, just like Lion King 1.5. Thank you. And just like I assume was the case in the Superstar Saga, which is cool that they're like taking, so much of what's fun about an RPG is the story of it, and to be like, oh, here's another thing that's also happening in the story. Man, I used to fantasize about that sort of thing, like when I was playing Final Fantasy VI as a kid. Like, oh man, if I just had a little bit more of anything that was happening in the course of this story, my head would have exploded. So I'm very happy to have it here. Anything else need to be said about either of these games?
I don't think so. I feel like they're both seem to be solid experiences, but you kind of know what you're getting into at this point with both of them.
Yeah, well, I think they do both, have the just advantage of being more convenient versions of both of these games. The Wii U, you can't take that gamepad more than like 10 feet away from your console or it's going to disconnect. The Switch, you can play that bad boy anywhere.
You may not even have a Wii U.
You may not even, hey, if you are like most people, you don't even have a Wii U. I will say that spending some time with my 3DS over the weekend reminded me again. And every time I like play a game on it, I'm reminded that I like the machine. But I wonder, as we like contemplate the future of the Switch and like what Nintendo's going to do after having had like two different like arms of their gaming, the having both the handheld and mobile, or sorry, handheld and console for so long. I wonder if we aren't going to see a like new version of the Switch that is more in line with the 3DS. Just thinking about the number of second screen experiences, like two screen experiences that Nintendo has developed over the last decade plus, it's going to be weird to see all of that orphaned on old hardware. It's three different systems that have, the DS, the 3DS, and the Wii U, all like were revolved around two screens. And, if the 3DS goes away, then all of those second screens go away.
Yeah, I feel like Nintendo isn't too sentimental sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, I think personally, like, there is a lot to be said for these, like, two screen experiences. Like, the Nintendo 3DS and the Nintendo DS are some of the best systems.
Yeah.
And best system libraries ever. And for that reason, I would love to see a future iteration of them, whatever that may look like. But also, like, I wonder if Nintendo's plan isn't the Switch and mobile.
Yeah.
Like that, becomes the two arms of the company in a way that, like the Game Boy went away when the Nintendo DS took off.
Yeah, and I think that is a very real possibility. It's just, and you're right that Nintendo is frequently non-sentimental about these things, which is why, like, games can be, sort of trapped on like older hardware, and they're just like, well, either we get back to that or we don't. But it's just interesting that we have already seen, three different platforms using the two screen, have that two screen functionality, and then if we're just looking into a future that doesn't have that anymore, it feels limiting in a lot of ways. A lot of games that like will have to be like massively reworked in order to even appear on anything. So get your Bowser Jr.'s journey while you can. All right, Mark, let's close out this discussion. I would be interested in knowing if anyone else picked up either of these games over the weekend and what your experiences are with them. You can email us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. And also, let me know if you think the two screens should all just go away forever and be dead and done. And I don't know what I'm talking about. Mark, I don't know what I'm talking about.
Patrick, I think you know you.
Oh, thanks, Mark. That's very sweet. That's going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Please rate, review, subscribe on Apple Podcasts. All of that helps us out tremendously. You can find us on Twitter. I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell, and the show is at Nincart Society. Our Facebook page is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers, not knowing what he's talking about, saying thanks for listening.
Campfire.